Good evening and welcome. My name is Richard Graber. I'm interim director of the Hungarian American Cultural Association of Houston. I've been the interim for the past 10 years. Welcome, come on in. And I'm so glad that you were able to cut some time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. We have some interesting stories you're going to hear tonight. A special welcome to Professor Cueva's students. Raise your hand if you're a student. All right, welcome. We're glad you're here. I also wanted to announce, please ask you first and foremost to turn your cell phones off, and then to make you aware of the fact that everything tonight is being recorded. Okay, both we have a video team and the sound as well. What I thought we would do is start with some basic foundation. I'll lay the foundation. I'll give you kind of the backdrop of what we're going to talk about today, and then we'll hear from each one of our panelists. And then we're going to do some Q&A. So if you've got questions that you'd like to ask the panelists, or just in general, we'll have some time to do that as well. Okay? Before we start, I wanted to say special thank you to UHD. It has been a wonderful, wonderful partner throughout this whole 60th anniversary of the events of Hungary 1956. We had a wonderful opening. If you haven't seen it yet, I invite you afterward to take a look at the artwork on the flip side of this wall behind you. Special thanks to Philip Arnoff, our honorary consulate, who helped broker this wonderful relationship with UHD. So thank you, Philip, for helping us with that. And there's a whole team of people at UHD. Julie Norton, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us tonight, special thanks to her. Sam Bible, who's running around, I think he will be here later, has been a wonderful, wonderful help. And of course, Professor who's with us tonight. Beth Secour helped us hang the artwork along with her students. So special thanks to her and her team. Andrea Lauer, who helped us curate the photos that are out there. Special thanks. She is actually in Atlanta. That's where she resides, and we work closely with her in the curation of those photos. And the Hungary Initiatives Foundation that has made a lot of these activities for the 60th anniversary possible. So special thanks to all those wonderful folks. Now, if you'll allow me, I'd like to read some things to you, and I know you're not here to hear me talk, but I want to set the scene of what you're going to hear about this evening. So if you'll allow me, I just want to read a couple things for orientation's sake. It was Tuesday, October 23rd in 1956. The whole thing, if you will, began as a peaceful student demonstration, young people with a manifesto asserting the right to be independent from all foreign powers, and that all Hungarians should enjoy the rights of free people in a democratic system. The crowds grew as the demonstrations moved throughout the city. By nightfall, state security police had fired on a crowd of unarmed demonstrators outside the state radio building, killing many. The 16 points is what I'd like to refer to now. I'm going to read through these. This is part of the manifesto at this time. Number 1, we demand the immediate evacuation of all Soviet troops in conformity with the provisions of the peace treaty. Number 2, we demand the election by secret ballot of all party members from top to bottom and of new officers for the lower, middle, and upper echelons of the Hungarian Workers' Party. These officers shall convene a party congress as early as possible in order to elect a central committee. 3, a new government must be constituted under the direction of Imre Nagy. All criminal leaders of the Stalin-Rákosi era must be immediately dismissed. 4, we demand public inquiry into the criminal activities of Mihály Farkas and his accomplices. Mátyás Rákosi, who is the person most responsible for crimes of the recent past, as well as for our country's ruin, must be returned to Hungary for trial before a people's tribunal. 5, we demand general elections by universal secret ballot are held throughout the country to elect a new National Assembly, with all political parties participating. We demand the right of workers to strike be recognized. 6, we demand revision and readjustment of Hungarian Soviet and Hungarian Yugoslav relations in the field of politics, economics, and cultural affairs on a basis of complete political and economic equality and of non-interference in the internal affairs of one by the other. 7, we demand the complete reorganization of Hungary's economic life under the direction of specialists. The entire economic system, based on a system of planning, must be re-examined in the light of conditions in Hungary and in the vital interest of the Hungarian people. 8, Our foreign trade agreements and the exact total of reparations that can never be paid must be made public. We demand to be precisely informed of the uranium deposits in our country, on their exploitation, and on the concessions to the Russians in the area. We demand that Hungary have the right to sell her uranium freely at world market prices and obtain hard currency. 9, we demand complete revision of the norms operating in industry and an immediate and radical adjustment of salaries in accordance with the just requirements of workers and intellectuals. We demand a minimum living wage for our workers. 10, we demand that the system of distribution be organized on a new basis and that agricultural products be utilized in a rational manner. We demand equality of treatment for individual farms. 11, we demand reviews by independent tribunal of all political and economic trials, as well as the release and rehabilitation of the innocent. We demand the immediate repatriation of prisoners of war, in this case World War II, and of civilian deportees to the Soviet Union, including prisoners sentenced outside Hungary. 12, we demand complete recognition of freedom of opinion and expression, of freedom of the press and of radio, as well as the creation of a daily newspaper for the MEFES organization, the Hungarian Federation of University and College Student Association. 13, we demand that the statue of Stalin, symbol of Stalinist tyranny and political oppression, be removed as quickly as possible and be replaced by a monument in memory of the martyred freedom fighters of 1848-49. 14, we demand the replacement of emblems foreign to the Hungarian people by the old Hungarian arms of Kossuth. We demand new uniforms for the army which conform to our national traditions. We demand that March 15th be declared a national holiday and that October 6th day be a national day of mourning, which schools will be closed. 15, the students of the Technological University of Budapest declare unanimously their solidarity with the workers and students of Warsaw and Poland in their movements toward national independence. And lastly, 16, the students of the Technological University of Budapest will organize as rapidly as possible local branches of MEFES, and they have decided to convene at Budapest on Saturday, October 27th, a youth parliament at which all the nation's youth shall be represented by their delegates. Events escalated quickly, and soon the Hungarian Revolution of '56 was in full swing. For many, it marked the beginning of an end of the Soviet Union, a revolution initially put down, but which set in motion a process that would unravel communism's oppressive grip on the freedom-loving people of Eastern Europe, culminating in victory in 1989. Red Army reinforcements rolled into Hungary in early November, supplementing the troops already in country and bringing the total force to some 17 divisions. The attack on Budapest began early November 4th, and despite the optimism and heroic courage of Hungary's freedom fighters of '56, the revolution was crushed by an overwhelming force of Soviet tanks, artillery, and even airstrikes. Though sporadic fighting continued, it became clear that the revolution was doomed, and many Hungarians fled for the West. Approximately 200,000 left the country as refugees, most of them arriving in Austria. It was the largest wave of refugees in Europe's post-World War II history and inflicted a terrible loss on the nation. So that's where we are. So I don't want to spend the time reading the bios because you have them all here. But if you'd like me to, I will. Okay. So what I'd like to do is ask our panelists I'm going to ask a series of questions from each of our panelists. I'll be the timekeeper and moderator, so we're going to hear from all four of them, and then we'll open up the floor like I mentioned later on. But I'd like to start with asking each one of our panelists to share a little bit about where they were when the revolution broke out. What was the feeling like in the air, if you will? And then we'll take it from there. So actually, let me introduce the panelists. First, to my right, Sue Mányai is from the Dallas area. Next, we have Ferenc Korompai, who is our local panelist. Miklós Olah is also local. And Joseph Nagyvári is from the Austin area. So it's a pleasure to have you all here, and thank you for agreeing to do this. So who'd like to start with the first question of where were you when the revolution broke out? Who'd like to start?
Anyone?
All right.
Go
I was in first grade. I had just started school. And I remember that there were a lot of the neighborhood that I lived in a very small village outside of Budapest where I was born. And the neighbors were meeting surreptitiously at night. And I knew that there were things going on, but we didn't understand and we didn't hear exactly what was going on. And my uncle, who lived about a mile down the road from us, he had, there was something going on in the neighborhood. He had been trying to arouse the farmers in the area to rise up against the communists. And there was a very important communist official who lived there, and there was some sort of strife between them. And my uncle killed the communist official who had a German Shepherd. And the German Shepherd followed my uncle home. But because it was a small town, everyone saw that his dog was there. My uncle had buried the man. And so my uncle was called into the county seat in front of a judge. And the judge said, you need to go to Budapest for the second court hearing. And of course, that meant a death sentence. And as my uncle was walking out, a young guard came up to him and said, you must go to the West immediately. We left the next day.
I was attending medical school second year. And since my getting into medical school was nearly miraculous, as my family was politically undesirable, designated as class alien. So I was doomed in the higher education, but that's a big story how I ended up. So my interest was studying. And I followed the demonstration because it was something that has never happened before. They used to order us to go out on May Day parade and order us to go out demonstrate certain communist causes. But this time we did it on our own. And one of the things that led to the demonstration is the sympathy with the Polish events in Poznan. The Poles were stirring, and we were going to show our solidarity at the beginning. And as the process went on through the day, additional points were added to the demands. And the demands on the street were much more simple than that long list of things. First, ended up at the statue of a poet of the 1848 revolution, and heard the stirring words of Petőfi, that's the name of the poet. I have the English translation of the first few lines. It says, Magyars, rise, your country calls you. Meet the hour, whatever befalls you. Shall we be freemen or slaves? Choose the lot your spirit craves. We swear by the God of the Hungarians, we shall never be slaves. And then we went on to, across the Danube, to the statue of Bem, General Bem, who was Polish, but was the leader, one of the armies in the 1848-1849 Hungarian freedom fight against the Habsburg House. So by the time I got there, we just got to the edge of the square because it was packed. Mostly students and young workers by then. And then we moved back across to the square in front of the parliament, where, again, we were packed in there and expected Imre Nagy to come and speak to us. Well, that took a long time. It was getting dark. And finally, Imre Nagy shows up at a balcony and addresses the crowd. And his first word out of his mouth was, comrades. And the entire square said, no more comrades. And he says, my fellow countrymen. And then again, a great hurrah, approval. And then word came that there was some activity at the radio station. So this is entire city, this walking. And when I got to near the radio station, I could smell the cordite. Shooting was already taking place. I said, this is not for me. I got a test coming up in 3 days. So I boogied home. And my thought was, in all honesty, I hope this thing lasts about 3 more days so I can get out of a test. But it changed. It was different.
Mr. Ola?
My story started in 56, October 23. I was working in a steel manufacturing in Ózd, Borsod, state of Borsod, and my boss sent me back to drive a dump truck because there was no driver whatsoever at the time in Hungary. And I was just get out from our army, and I have a document to drive a car, a license. And we heard up in a mountain where we was working that a revolution started in Budapest. So revolution started. I mean, what kind of revolution it is? I was 24 years old. I said, if something happened in Budapest, why we young people can join the revolution? And get rid of the Russian. So I jump in my dump truck and come down from a mountain and come in a main street beside the factory, and I see the workers with hammers and different objects try to take apart the Russian monument, what we have there. And they stopped me on a road, middle of the road, that put a rope around the monument and hook up to the dump truck, and I was supposed to pull it down. I said to the man, man, I give you my truck, but I don't want to involve with this kind of heavy stuff. So somebody jumped on my dump truck and pulled the monument down. That's when I started to join my fellow Hungarian young people, young men, mostly drivers who drive all kind of trucks and buses and vehicles. And I organized a group about 23 people. And we have a little meeting. We have to have some guns. Nobody has guns at that time in Hungary. So three of us, 3 trucks, go to the army barrack where is a few miles from my city. And I go in to the office, and there was a captain sitting by himself. All the young soldiers, they send them home that they don't want them to have the revolution because the army changed to our favor, the Hungarian army. And I said, I have the document already from the new city mayor, which we supposed to protect from a communist. He was in jail for 10 years already. And we elected him to the city mayor. So I have the document show the captain that I have a right to get the guns from you people. He said, there is a key, open a safe, and you can get all kind of guns. And we should fill up ourselves with machine guns, grenade, regular pistol, and go to the marketplace where the people was there, and give it to. I said, you join, you join, you join, you join. And we get a couple of hundred people together. And we was waiting, the Russian will come to my city. And sure enough, but the majority of the people, when they saw the tanks and the soldiers, approximately about 8 to 1,000 Russian come in. We supposed to attack them from the second floor of the cultural get-together where we used to go to, young people to.
Center, cultural center.
The cultural center, yes. And upstairs, we waiting for the Russian with guns and grenades and to kill. What we know we're gonna get killed because there was so many, and we was only 13 boys. And I see the Russian trucks, 20 Russian boys sitting there, and I said, okay, get ready, boys. And I looked down in a street, and these boys, the Russian boys, it was November something, first part of November. And it was very cold, and the kids in the truck is shaking, so cold. I said, oh my God, you know, these boys, do we attack them? Or let them just pass my city and go to Eger, and another big city? So I have a little meeting for my boys. And we decided, voted, like the American vote, the majority is rule. And we say, 7 say not to fight, 6 say yes. So we call up the attack. And the Russians go to Eger, another big city, and we finish our revolution activities, hide the guns, the weapon. You know, when the band was playing in a little double, we put it under there. Every fight, guns and things we have hide it, and we say we're going to go to the west somewhere. Next day, I'm supposed to meet at 7 o'clock in the train station to go to Budapest. And from 13, only 5 show up. I said, what happened? They already looking for us, the AVO, the Secret Service Office. But before that, we go to the police station and we arrest all the policemen, and between them has 3 Secret Service officers, like a Gestapo, like the KGB, and this was a AVO. We arrest everybody and put them in jail. Next morning, I send a truck to pick them up, to bring it to our headquarters to judge them. If the policeman get the red star out of his head and throw it down and step on it, we let him go. This was a symbolic action. Only one policeman did it, which we know him personally, you know, Joska. The rest of it, no. And there was a detective between them, you know, and 3 Secret Service officers. I said, what we gonna do with you people? We're gonna take you upstairs to the headquarters, and I'm gonna get 12 people from our workers, and let's make them a judgment about you, our future. But what happened? We thought I know from there was about 1,000 people right there and want to catch these people. And I don't even remember where they get the rope, and they know exactly who was the 3 people. They get it out and hang them up right there in front of us. And I said, oh my God, you know. They have people make pictures, you know, the people who are work for the communists. And
To get out of the country.
I said to the boys, I said, nah, this is the time we have to leave, otherwise we finish. I have one friend between us there. He said, Mickey, I just get married. My wife is pregnant. How can I leave my wife? I said, bring your wife. She don't want to go. He don't come with us. They catch him, the Avo, put him in jail for 10 years. And I continue. When we get together to meet each other in a train station, the second night, or first night, I go back. I tell my mama, I said, Anya, mama, I go to America. Oh, my sister, no, boys. My sister said, go to America. We have a street name is America in my city. He said, you're going to go there. I come home at 12 o'clock, knocking on the door. And my sister said, you come back from America so fast, you know. So next day, I said, I don't care. We leave my city because it's very hot, very dangerous. So we go to the train station, go to Miskolc to Budapest. From Budapest to go to another station where the train go to Austria. We said, we're going to hide somewhere in a train. But there was a truck driver. He said, I'll take you as a friend. And he took us to Győr, before Győr, a few kilometers. And by then, the Russian was face Austria with the tanks and the cannon to wait that the Americans and the Western power going to come. But they tell us they're going to come, but nothing happened, you know.
Okay, Mr. Ola, I'm going to cut you off there because I want to continue that thought later. The actual when you all left the country. So hold that thought.
Okay.
Joseph, can you share a little bit about?
Yes. I was a 9th semester, 5th year chemistry student at the Eötvös University in the science faculty. And I was what you would call now a typical nerd. I was primarily interested in my research. I wanted to be a good chemist and wanted to make great discoveries. I was really not very interested in politics. October 23rd was a very important date. We knew there would be a demonstration, but for me, mainly it was important because I wanted to propose my girlfriend on that particular date. We had a date.